Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quinville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quinville scores!
Here's a chance for Carrick. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other. They both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Shaun.
Hello and greetings from the Mile High city of Denver, Colorado.
And Rosemere, Quebec.
Oui. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 78 for Friday, January 28th, 2022. If you're hoping for a podcast featuring a guide to crop insurance, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is Cece Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Shaun O'Brien from Stats Track and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And as I sometimes say, kind of a big deal.
Deal.
As always, we thank y'all for tuning in.
And if you're new to hearing Cece and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the matchups in the upcoming weekend in the AHL for you. We both watch a lot of AHL games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're new to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out. So you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today looking at the Baseball Hall of Fame class. It doesn't include Barry Bonds and is therefore illegitimate. You'll never get that time back. So next time, why not spend a little more time with us talking hockey?
Oh goodness. I have no comment. All right. Well, let's dive into the news portion of the program. It's not something we touch on every program, but definitely need to touch on this episode for sure. The Seattle Kraken's AHL affiliate over there in Palm Springs, the Coachella Valley Firebirds, have debuted their new jerseys. And I'm trying to bring that up, so sorry about that. Here we go. Those are the Coachella Valley Firebirds new threads for the 2022-2023 season. And Shaun, you know, we're taking it in. That's the home and away right there. Let's look at the comparison between the Seattle Kraken and Coachella Valley. And let's talk about it a little bit here. We'll pop up here in the corner. Shaun, your thoughts, sir?
I really liked it. And then I saw it next to Seattle, and then I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like I didn't realize immediately. I guess I'm not as familiar with the Kraken jersey. It's one of the few that aren't in my own personal collection. So I wasn't as familiar with kind of the intricacies of the jersey, and it didn't strike me right away of like, oh, that's the same template and the color scheme kind of flipped, which now that I see them side by side, makes a lot more sense. And it's something I think, if we're not going to just copy and paste logos, which as we've established as precedent in this podcast, it's canon now, that I am firmly against that. I like when markets have their own identity, their own colors, kind of like exactly what's happening here. Like They took the template and they just kind of flipped the colors. And I think it looks really good. I really like that. The only big difference for me is the collar. I like the collar a lot. I like the kind of sublimate or the like shifting colors on the shoulders, just like Seattle. I think it looks good. It gives me a little bit of Arizona vibes, University of Arizona. They did that with some of their like football jerseys and football uniforms, but I think it's a good look. I still am underwhelmed by the logo in general, but I think it's fine. I'm really glad that they didn't go with black as a color and went with the Seattle blue. Just because, like, kind of we talked about, it would basically be like, well, this is the Heat, more or less, a team that they will play where they managed to make the color scheme and the jersey look and feel different in a way that I think is really good.
Yeah, I really enjoy the fact that they didn't. I mean, obviously they've got the dark blue base there for their home jersey, but they don't. They don't actually. Yeah, I mean the subtle little light blue around the bottom there, that little light blue bar around the waist, and then the piping. Like I guess you could call it piping. It's not really like piping, but I guess the little line there around
Accent
the
stripe.
accent stripe. There we go. Yeah, the accent stripes around the wrist, essentially, of this jersey as well. It really, yeah. Seattle kind of has a red one of those because of the eye and the Kraken logo and everything like that. But yeah, I hadn't thought of that. That basically, if you did a black jersey of this and a black version of this, that it essentially becomes a Stockton Heat jersey. So good for them for doing that. And then also, like we talked about a little bit before we went live here, or at least before we started recording, is the palm trees up on the shoulders and kind of how you have this crest that's it's got a little bit of a mountainous outline to it to kind of allude to the hills there in Coachella Valley. And yeah, I just think really it's a really well done jersey. And unlike the last AHL team's jersey reveal, the Henderson Silver Knights, like you said, it's not just a copy and paste. It's not just of course, Henderson does emphasize different aspects, but I digress. It was pretty much a copy and paste job between Vegas and Henderson, just putting in silver instead of gold because the Golden Knights, they like gold. Sorry.
I think given the name that they went with Silver Knights, it was always going to be a very overlapping scheme, and them being,
right,
literally down the block. There wasn't a whole, I didn't see, the Golden Knights are already in the market. You're not going to be expanding your market footprint because it's literally, down the street at this point. And even when they moved to Henderson's not far from Vegas. You're not like the people who are going to those games were always Vegas Golden Knights fans. If anything at all, like maybe not, in 2014, they weren't Vegas fans, but like, anyway, with this Seattle look, I think it does a good job of giving the market its own scheme, its own identity, while still very much tying in, a Seattle kind of theme. I'd be surprised if you didn't see some kind of Seattle logo replace one of those shoulder patches eventually. Hopefully not both. I think those are very good shoulder patches with the palm tree. I think that's a great look for them. Possibly, as a third jersey feature logo in the future down the road. But I think it's a good look. I was surprised that there were, seeing reactions to it online, I was surprised that so many of them were negative. And by so many, I mean like maybe 15%, one in 6 maybe were negative. I thought that was surprising. I would have thought this would have been like an overwhelm. I thought I would have had to like peel through comments to try and find people who didn't like them. But there were a fair number, a small minority, but still larger than I would have expected. I think the jerseys are great looking. I look forward to, purchasing one at a future date and rocking it on the show.
That'll be nice to see. The numbering, which we did not see, numbering not appearing in this film. The numbering and the lettering for the names on the back, I really like too. So we'll have to cover that once you actually get a jersey. So anyway, on to our next piece of news. Let's talk about some very good news for the Henderson Silver Knights and just good news for head coach Manny Viveiros. Viveiros, rather, has been medically cleared to return to the team full-time and reassume his coaching duties effective immediately. He will be the bench boss for the Henderson Silver Knights against their two-game set against the Colorado Eagles there at Orleans Arena in Las Vegas. Real quick, first part of Coach Viveiros' statement. I am thrilled to be able to return to coaching and to once again be with my players and fellow coaches whose support has been so significant throughout these last few months. After recent tests and scans, my doctors have given me clearance to return to my full-time duties with the team, and my prognosis is very good. So I could read the rest of it, but I think that's a good, that's pretty much the gist of it. The guy had cancer. He underwent treatment. He was coaching a little bit while going through treatment and then took a step back for X amount of games. I don't even know if it's 15 or 20 games this season because he got the diagnosis during the season, right?
I think it was in the off season. They were
Okay, that's right.
He was diagnosed based on like a routine physical and blood work. Because Vegas is an organization that when they do the training camp physicals, it's not just for players; they do it for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what caught. They found I want to say it was some blood test they ran where the results came back weird, and they ran some more tests, and that's how they caught it. And I mean, Viveiros at the time said, yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I felt perfectly fine. I'm a healthy 55-year-old. And, I would never have thought to go, get any of that check. Cause again, I felt fine. Nothing felt normal. So yeah, absolutely. Always good news when someone has a good prognosis from a cancer diagnosis. And just a friendly reminder to our listeners out there, when you have a spare minute or two, go see if you can get, some routine blood work run, just like Coach Viveiros could save your life.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like whenever I donate blood or plasma, they do blood tests. And so that's kind of, I mean, obviously I go for an annual checkup and get, blood tests run there as well. But I mean, yeah, that's, they test that blood and make sure, hey, you're healthy and good to go in that regard too.
Yeah. You're definitely not going to give cancer to someone. That would be kind of bad.
Oh, yeah, yes, it would. But at least, you'd be able to find out if you had leukemia or white blood cell count was high. But anyway, very happy to see Coach Viveiros back in action. He's a tough son of a bitch. I'll tell you what.
Because cancer treatment is not something that you just, jump right back in the fight for. Cancer treatment sucks. It is awful. They basically pump you full of poison that kills you slightly slower than it kills the cancer cells. It's awful. So good for him. Can't wait to see him back behind the bench. I'm sure the Henderson Silver Knights will be ready and fired up with him back on the ice.
Absolutely. All right, let's go from one team beginning with H to another team beginning with H. And I think you might have their jersey on there, Shaun. Yes, the Hershey Bears. No, the Hershey Bears. Don't try to spice up Joe Dirt. Weekend series, Saturday, 7 p.m. versus Bridgeport. Sunday, 5:05 p.m. at Lehigh Valley. Let's talk about the team. Hershey has been all season long. As a team, they've struggled with consistency. They've won back-to-back games just 7 times all season, and they are 8-6 in games played where they played the day before. Yet, in terms of raw win percentage, they're 9th in the AHL and 7th in points percentage. How have the Bears gotten to here, and how do they start to get on a roll?
Wow, there is a lot to unpack in that. I mean, did you not have any simpler questions that we could
Not
open
for
this
you.
with?
Nope, swinging out of the gate here.
Well, we're going to go in all kinds of directions here, but let's start with the consistency part first. Yes, they haven't strung together an impressive win streak like a lot of their peer division leaders have. Chicago, 12 wins in a row. Utica started the season hot. They had 13 wins in a row. Stockton quietly piling up 9 wins in a row over there. Those teams at the peak of their powers look terrifying. And Hershey hasn't had the roster at the peak of their powers for more than a game or two at really any point this season. Opening night 23-man roster compared to what they've been playing with this season, compared to that opening night 23-man roster, they have 252 games lost from those players, whether it be injury, call-up, taxi squad, whatever. So that's 252. That's 22 from Scarbosa, 24 and counting from Brian Pino, #free Brian Pino, 14 from Vecchione, 17 from Nardella, 13 and counting from the captain, Matt Molson, 29 and counting from Alexei Protas, who I think it's safe to assume is not coming back to Hershey at this point. Zac Fucaley, their number one goaltender going into the season, has played 12 whole games and has been kind of outplayed by Copley, despite Copley being the league average goalie he's been the past 3 seasons. And that means you got to plug the Christopher Browns and Jake Masseys of the world into the lineup. And yet, shockingly, that hasn't yielded the Bears a 12-game or a 10-game win streak. Color me surprised. And I believe that Hershey has a talented core when they have guys like Sgarbossa, Pilon, Pinho, Franzen, Nardella, Axel Janssen, Floaby in the lineup. But step one to building consistency is to have all those guys in Hershey's lineup for more than a game or two at a time. And yes, I'm aware this is an AHL roster, and roster consistency plagues every team, every season, and so on. But 252 man games lost from the opening night roster to now, and we're not even at the halfway point of the season. I mean, okay, I didn't calculate that number for every team because I do have a life outside of this podcast, albeit barely. But Hershey has got to be top 3 in the AHL in that category, if not one. 252 from their opening night roster. Hershey's also been in the 4th most 1-goal games in the AHL this season, which with you pair with their 9th best win percentage and their roster issues, it really says something about this coaching staff being able to get the most out of this team, even in rough circumstances. They're constantly in games every single night and are able to go out there and compete and grind out ugly wins and be in, games they have no business being in every single night. And that's a big credit to the coaching staff. And, having interviewed a member of their coaching staff on this very podcast, that's not surprising. But the good news is that TJ Oshie is looking like he's primed to return soon, which means there's likely a player coming back to Hershey. Snively just got called up and Sgarbossa is coming back. Hopefully Oshie's health means Snively comes back too. Although Protas also a very worthy candidate to come back, even though more worthy in the sense of it would be better for Hershey if he came back, but I don't think the Caps are going to give that guy up. But getting Sgarbossa in the lineup definitely gives the Bears a boost, as he's been a near point-a-game player for Hershey since coming over from Manitoba. But losing Snively, who's been a breakout player this season, has probably been a bigger impact. So this kind of horse swap here is probably a slight net loss for Hershey in all likelihood. Not that Sgarbossa is a bad player, obviously, but that the impact Snively has made this season is probably going to eclipse what Sgarbossa is going to do for the team. And they play different games and chemistry and blah, 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 blah. Now, with all that said, getting a role going forward isn't going to be easy for the Bears either. They have played the most home games of any team in the AHL. 24 of the 37 games they've played at home have been played at home. That's a very 50% of your games are supposed to be at home. They played 24 of 37. Only Ontario is even close to that home versus away ratio. That means a lot of the remaining games on the docket are away from the Giant Center. And the Bears are currently a flat 50% for road game points percentage. Even if they get reinforcements, the road ahead is treacherous. And I still think this is unquestioning a playoff team in the Atlantic, barring a complete stripping of the roster. But I think this style of 1-goal games, a lot of overtime, a struggle to win more than 3 in a row isn't going away for Hershey. So Bears fans, if you have been sweating these close games all season and, have had to kind of have, those edge of your seat, we're in this game to the end, shootout kind of mentality, buckle up. I don't think it's getting any smoother.
Man, I tell you, the thing about, when we do a team breakdown leading into the weekend is, of course, Shaun, you're always going to mention individual players. You had your Sgarbossas, your Pilons, your hashtag free Brian Pinho in there, Axel Janssen Floaby. But we actually got a request from a listener for our individual player breakdown, and it dovetails nicely with the consistency you just talked about. Netminder Zac Fucaley started the season as the pretty clear best goaltender on the roster. The AHL schedule being what it is, he split starts with Phoenix Copley to begin the season. Fucaley played well early, posting a .933 save percentage in his first 5 starts, not too shabby, and earning a call up to the Caps where he made his NHL debut. A 21 save shutout against the Red Wings, not bad at all. Since then, Fucaley has been rather bad, posting a .838 save percentage since then. Shaun, any idea what is going on with goalie Zac Fucaley?
We talk many a time on this podcast about what yo-yoing does to a prospect. Now, Fucaley is 26 and hardly in the traditional thought of a prospect anymore, but I think a lot of the same logic applies. But we need the context to kind of get there. So we're going to have a little bit of Zac Fucaley story time today. Zac Fucaley had an insane junior career. Youngest goalie to ever win 100 games in the QMJHL. All-time leader in wins, playoff wins, and shutouts for Halifax when he finished juniors. Number 1 ranked North American goaltender by Central Scouting in the draft. Was the first goaltender drafted in 2013 by his hometown Montreal Canadiens. Was called up and sent back by the Habs a few times, spending a total of 15 days on an active NHL roster during the regular season over his time with the Canadiens organization that spanned 5 years from draft day to last exit interview. Signed with Vegas in the offseason, hoping for a fresh start, barely even got a sniff of the AHL, let alone a chance in the show. Next year, he signs an AHL deal with Syracuse, barely gets a shot there as he's in Orlando most of the season, which, being in Orlando is not terrible, but being in the ECHL, not so much. He gets released from his contract to go to the DEL in Germany to try and break through there. Gets injured, never plays. COVID shuts down the season shortly thereafter. He comes to Hershey in the goofy pandemic year that we had last year, puts up stellar numbers, gets a contract with the Capitals, gets called up, makes his NHL debut, a moment he's worked ungodly hard for 9 years since his draft day, pitches a 21 save shutout in his NHL debut. The first goaltender in Capitals franchise history to ever pitch a shutout in the NHL in their NHL debut. Front page of Sportsnet, NHL Network interview. 48 hours later, he's sent back to Hershey. He's called up 3 more times by the Capitals before getting another shot at the NHL level. Plays 19 minutes of relief, but stops all 7 shots he faces. Gets the start the next night against the Wild and plays very well, keeping the sheet clean until late in the third period. The Capitals ultimately lose in the shootout. Still, Fucaley sets an NHL record for longest shutout streak to begin a career. This league's been around 100 and some years. He set the record for longer. I genuinely don't believe that there isn't some goofy dude in the 30s who, starting his career had 4 straight shutouts or something when the scores were, 2-0 and nobody had helmets. But apparently Zac Fucaley set that record. 5 days later, he's back in Hershey. To have a dream of playing in the NHL fulfilled, to put up the absolute best results you can, an NHL record in the process, a franchise record in the process, and then being pushed back down like it all meant nothing. If there is a swifter and more sobering kick to the junk than that, I don't want to know about it. And in my eyes, seeing Fucaley's film after that first call-up in the shutout over Detroit, he looks like his confidence is off. Like he's struggling to be dialed in and is fighting the puck just a bit. His rebound control has been inconsistent. He's let in a few Wild West duel-style goals that maybe weren't soft, but they were sure savable. Being a goaltender is by far the most mental position in hockey, and that's probably also why most people describe goaltenders as being mental in the first place. Yes, you need to be athletic and work hard and all of that, but the majority of it is between the ears. And part of me wonders if the struggles with the Bears this season are because, in the back of his mind, he wonders what the hell it's going to take. 9 years after his draft as the first goalie off the board, clawing his way up from the depths of purgatory, I mean the ECHL, shutout in his debut, the longest shutout streak to start a career in the NHL, in NHL history. What's it going to take for a team to believe in him and give him a legitimate shot? And if it's not that, and this is just an unrelated slump, the yo-yos and all of that goes with it are unrelated, his confidence is perfectly intact, then that is a mentally tougher human being than he has any right to be. Because yo-yoing guys has killed the confidence and morale of many a hockey player over the course of this dumb league and this dumb sport. And that's what I believe it is. I believe that there is a voice in Zac Fucaley's head after that stellar performance against Detroit, keeping the sheet cleaned against Minnesota up until the very last minute. And yeah, he played another game and it didn't go so hot, but still, he's looked good by and large in the limited amount of time in the NHL he's played. And to just keep getting tossed back, there's got to be a little voice in his head that wonders what the hell it takes. And those are hard to quiet. And from my eyes, watching him play in those moments since then, that's what it looks like to me. And I don't know what the answer is to try and fix that, but it sucks.
Shaun has said to me personally, and a few times on the program as well, that he is not a writer. But I feel like if he put his words that he just said about Zac Fucaley onto paper, I feel like that would be an intriguing read. I really do, Shaun. So from an AHL editor to an AHL analytics podcast co-host, I say to you, maybe put a pen to paper one day. Just saying.
Joke's on you. I actually don't know how to write.
Oh, okay. Well, it was worth a shot. Anyways, let's talk keys to the weekend. That's my keys you hear. Shaun, what does Hershey have to do to get a win over Bridgeport, Lehigh Valley, one or the other, or both?
Biggest key here is to get the power play going. They're clicking at a 25% rate over the last 4 games. So this seems like a goal or a key to the weekend that is maybe not quite there. But they haven't scored a power play goal against Bridgeport or Lehigh Valley this season. Bridgeport gives up the second fewest number of power plays per game in the AHL. Lehigh Valley gives up the third fewest. Hershey is also 27th in the league at drawing penalties. So power play chances are going to be at a premium here, and they need to make them count, especially against Bridgeport, as the Sound Tigers are 22nd in the league in net penalty kill. The Phantoms are much better, so it's understandable when you don't score against them. For some reason, even though the Phantoms have been a tire fire for large portions of this year and some of last, they've managed to ice a very competitive penalty kill. But Hershey needs to be able to put those special teams to work against those teams this weekend if they want to have success, because they're not going to get a lot of power play opportunities in all likelihood. And they need to make sure that when they do get them, they make them count.
So with that said, it's time for our picks, and I'll go first. Hershey reminds me a lot of the Colorado Eagles, at least how they were before their current 8-game win streak that they are on. They just defeated San Diego on Wednesday night, and Hershey reminds me a little bit of them. You know, can't string together back-to-back wins. I know Colorado, I want to say 7 of 9 back-to-back series they split. I think Hershey gets the hump off the back this weekend, and I think they go for the sweep. And by sweep, I mean sweep the weekend. Obviously, they're not playing the same opponent, but I think they beat Bridgeport, and I think they beat Lehigh Valley.
I'm hesitant here because I want to agree with you. I really, really do. I don't know. I feel like this is another one where we're going to, like, I'm going to pick a sweep. You're going to pick a sweep. The model's going to pick a sweep. And then, like, Saturday morning, Axel Janssen-Fjallby and Phoenix Copley and Bobby Nardella get called up by the Capitals to ride the press box in wherever Washington is. And the Bears have to play, skeleton crew against Lehigh Valley, who pulls out 3-2 in a shootout or some goofy, like, that's the part of me that doesn't want to believe. It's not about the team that's there now. It's, I truly don't trust the Washington Capitals to leave that team there for this weekend. But I can't make picks based on that. I got to go with what I can see right now, and what I can see right now says Hershey sweeps the weekend.
All right. Well, like you alluded to, the model is picking a Hershey sweep. Bears favorite over Bridgeport, rather 52.4% and 53.7% over Lehigh Valley. So, yeah, we'll see if we're all in one accord or if we're just off of our rocker. I don't pick sweeps easily, but I've noticed, when we do make those picks with the model and everything, like it could be kind of a cheap way out, or maybe not, because if the other team sweeps, then of course you didn't pick any. But if Hershey gets at least one, then you go at least 50% for the weekend. But yeah, obviously I'm not picking sweeps every weekend either way, but just something I noticed. I mean, is there any strategy for you on that?
I think for me, a lot of the picking it comes down to picking splits is the hardest because then you got to decide which game is the one side, which game is the other. And when it's two teams that are playing this, when you're playing, 2-game sets, it's really hard because it feels like, all right, I'm just going to pick one team on Friday and another on Saturday and hope that I get it right. Whereas at least when you have different opponents, there's some level of, well, Bridgeport plays this stuff, but like, I don't know. I think if they lose one, it's going to be to Bridgeport. I don't believe in Lehigh Valley. They're going to need to do a lot more until I believe in them. Whereas Bridgeport seems to have these like random games where they're just like, oh yeah, remember us? We're not complete trash. But yeah, I'm still taking the sweep, even though I do so tepidly. Any other closing thoughts here on Hershey before we head out of here?
I mean, I know you've confessed just how, you want them to, hashtag free Brian Pinot, and they still, like you said, they find themselves so high up in the standings in the league. They are second in the Atlantic Division currently. Of course, Hartford, Hershey, and Providence, and throw Springfield in there too. I feel like they're all just, they won a game, they lost a game, and they're just up and down the standings. So I just feel like, Hershey, once they get it all together, I feel like they could be a real threat in the playoffs. And don't be surprised if they make a push for that Eastern Conference final. Like once they, get everything together, avoiding any injuries and any long-term call-ups to the Capitals.
Well, I think the other thing too that's interesting is that all four of those teams have kind of had this weird, like, who's in town that game kind of thing. Like the Rangers have absolutely pilfered Hartford in the last couple of weeks, leaving them basically with a skeleton crew. And our reoccurring meme of, oh no, we suck again from
Little Nicky.
But like,
Waterboy, that's right.
And it's felt like that at some point for every one of those four teams, especially too. All four of those teams, their parent club looks primed to make the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. So we could see this be basically a race of whose team gets knocked out in the first round, going places, because then they will be at full strength. Whereas I don't think you see that in some of the other cases.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. But we are going to take a break here. And after the break, we're going to get to the Syracuse Crunch over there in the North Division. If you're just here for the Hershey Bears, we want to thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found at our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. All right, we've got some advertisements to run. So, Shaun, let's take a quick break, maybe go put on a coat. Looks pretty cold there in Quebec. So we'll be right back. Okay, one team down, the Hershey Bears. We have covered the Hershey Bears over in the Atlantic Division, and now we're going to cover the Syracuse Crunch. And they play Friday at 7:05 p.m. at Rochester against the Amerks. Saturday, 7 p.m. versus Charlotte. Going to be hosting the Charlotte Checkers. So
I do have one thing that if we ever get like Howard Dolligan or someone like that on this program,
sure,
I want to know what the 5 minutes gains them. Like a 7:05 start. What is that 5 minutes doing for you?
You could ask the same thing to Martin Lind and the Colorado Eagles, because they also start their game at 7:05.
Like, why?
Or 3:05, or
Like I understand if you want to do a 3 o'clock or a 5 o'clock or whatever. Rochester earlier this season chose a game time to coincide so that people would be home in time for the Bills playoff game. But like the 05, what is 5 minutes? It's like, but that's when puck drop it.
Is that, I don't know if that's like a Ted Turner thing from back when, TBS, the Superstation, coming on at 7:05 Eastern. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it sets you apart or if it's a psychological thing. Like, there's a 5. Like, I got to be there. I don't know. But I don't know either. But no.
Probably something for the editing room floor. But anyway, let's go. Syracuse.
Syracuse. So the Crunch's PK has not looked good lately. They are killing 61.5% of their penalties in the last 4 games. And are 79.1% in net penalty kill on the season. That is fifth worst in the AHL. What does the Crunch need to do to kill penalties better? I know that's a simple question, but it may not be a simple answer.
Well, a fair portion of their recent penalty kill struggles came from a game against Utica where Syracuse did some dumb stuff and sent the third best power play in the league to extended power play time. Spoiler, that did not go well, but, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. In general, Syracuse has killed the 10th fewest penalties per game, so this wasn't a typical outing for them in that sense. They're usually pretty good about not putting a league, a very bad penalty kill to work, which is always a good strategy. The easiest way to not give up power play goals is to not take penalties. But as far as fixing problems, though, a big problem is their penalty kill forecheck. They run a 1-1-2 forecheck, which is good. It's a forechecking system that I like a lot when it's done well. And therein lies the problem. It's not being executed well. For any forecheck to work, you need all of the skaters on the ice to ideally be on the same page, but at the very least, the same chapter of the same book. And that's not the Crunch PK right now. Their first forechecker, for the most part, is doing what he's supposed to. The rest of the penalty killers are all over the place. So to dive a little deeper here, your first forechecker's job is to cut the ice in half, to steer the play up one of the sides of the boards, and then cover the drop pass. You'll see this a lot when the Crunch are on the penalty kill. They'll get a clear or the puck in the other end. You'll see the opposing team with the puck behind the net starting to set up a breakout, and that Crunch first forechecker will be right there at the bottom of the circles, just waiting to kind of steer play. And that's what he'll do. He'll steer play to his side, and then he'll cover for the drop pass. And by and large, their first forechecker in that role does a pretty good job of that. It's not great, but he does a passable job. That second forechecker, though, that's the guy who's in the neutral zone or right around the blue line to start. His job is to play center field and cut off passing lanes going east-west through the neutral zone while also keeping the puck carrier kind of, towards the boards. He's, as the first forechecker goes to play the drop pass, he kind of takes over and herds them along the boards and makes sure he cuts off that passing lane going east-west across the neutral zone. That isn't happening, and that is where breakdowns are happening by and large. That second forward in the zone is repeatedly dogging it. This allows the power play to be able to attack the middle of the ice and do so with speed. That forces the defense to back off the blue line, because if they don't, they're going to get burned going, guy coming full speed, them at not fast speed, it's going to get torched. They're going to go right around him. And as we stressed in previous episodes, the best way to prevent power play goals is to not take penalties. The second best way is to keep the offense from gaining the zone in the first place. The Crunch aren't doing that because the forecheck isn't executing. In zone, the PK is inconsistently able to generate pressure. The scheme they use is called CC.
The check press.
Otherwise known as the wedge +1. Again, this is a good scheme, one that basically every other team in professional hockey uses. And one that they use well. But like any scheme, it's only as effective as the execution of it, and therein lies the problem. Inconsistent pressure from the Crunch. I've seen them be aggressive, force turnovers along the wall. I've also seen them stare down Alexander Holtz with the puck and just wait for him to make a move. Spoiler, that did not work out for them. It also seems like the two defensemen and the forward in the slot are struggling with their responsibilities. As in my viewings, they're the ones who are late getting into shooting lanes. They're late getting to their assignments. They're hesitating when to pressure and giving opponents time and space. Giving time and space to professional hockey power plays is the opposite of what you want to do as a penalty kill. And those three guys not making moves, making decisions, and being where they're supposed to be, making the correct reads in quick enough time. Those are the two defensemen in the slot and the forward in the slot there. They make up the wedge you'll see on the penalty kill. They're not acting fast enough. They're not acting decisively enough. In short, forwards aren't on the same page, forechecking, keeping the power play out of the zone. The two defensemen and the one forward who make up the wedge in the slot area aren't doing their job either. They're not covering their assignments. They're not acting fast enough. They're not reacting fast enough. That's why this penalty kill is failing for the Crunch, and it's going to keep failing if they don't get those things cleaned up.
When I watched Colorado and Iowa play on last Saturday night, they executed the penalty kill so well. And it's something they've struggled with. They're in the bottom third of the AHL this season. But the way that, having that wedge in front, those two defensemen in the forward, and the way that the forwards were just effortlessly peel off and just cycle through and really make Iowa, just put the pressure on Iowa to make a play and to really, force the PK to make a mistake. Like, that's the way you do it. And Syracuse, like you said, they're not executing that effectively. So moving on from the team to the individual, Shaun Day, not Sean O'Brien, but Shaun Day was this close to making the Calder Farmstead All-Star teams. However, he's had another strong year in Syracuse despite the team struggling. Shaun, what's been the story of Mr. Day's success this season?
Well, like we just talked about with Zac Fucaley, I think we need to have some context here for Shaun Day, because I don't know if Crunch fans really know the story of his journey, which really gives you an appreciation how far he's battled to even get to here. CC, as you know, the CHL in Canada is made up of 3 leagues: the OHL, the QMJHL, and the WHL. It's for 16 to 20-year-olds and is where a lot of the NHL draft picks come from. The CHL, in partnership with Hockey Canada, also grants exceptional status to these age requirements, allowing 15-year-olds to play in the CHL. This is not an easy process. It takes about 6 months and is rather intense, as letting someone with a learner's permit play full contact sports against college sophomore age opponents is usually not a good decision. So you have to be a hell of a 15-year-old to be ready for that mentally and physically, and from a maturation perspective as well. So far, since the CHL has started doing these exemptions, these exceptional status, 6 players have been granted exceptional status. You probably heard of most of them: John Tavares, Aaron Ekblad, Connor McDavid, Joe Veleno, Shane Wright, who's currently in the OHL and is expected to be the next player to have his career mishandled by the Montreal Canadiens at the 2022 draft. And number 6 in 2013 was Shaun Day. And at the time, he was worthy of that status too. He was huge and could absolutely just fly up the ice. But Day's junior career didn't go like other exceptional status players, and he struggled his first 2 years. His family also had a lot of struggles that are well documented and don't need to be rehashed here. If you're a listener and curious and have never heard of this, you can go Google them if you're so inclined. I will not rehash the personal business of players that is not relevant to their on-ice play, or not relevant to the discussion at this point. That's their personal life and isn't full of, shitbaggery. So I'm not going to bring it up. But his draft stock fell all the way to the point where he went to the 3rd round of the Rangers in his draft year. His junior career came together at the end, posting solid seasons as an overager. His pro career did not get off to a great start. He was sent to Hartford, quickly demoted to the ECHL in Maine. He managed to work his way back to Hartford in that season, but still struggled. Second year pro was more of the same. Early struggles in Hartford, demoted to the ECHL. And the list of guys whose careers have died at this point is long and treacherous. The Coast can brand itself however it wants. It's not a developmental league. The ECHL, if you play more than 20 games in the Coast, your chances of ever making it into a single NHL game are less than 1%. Your chances of becoming an NHL regular are probably about 0.1%. Shaun Day played 55 ECHL games. It takes a lot of heart, a lot of mental toughness, and a lot of hard work to dig out of that spot. As for his on-ice game, Day's calling card has always been his skating, but he's added so many more dimensions to his game. He's able to freeze and manipulate defenders from the point on the power play and open up time and space for guys like Hudon and Barry Boulay on the half walls for one-timers, because he doesn't tip his hand to defenders where he's going with the puck or what he's going to do. As we just talked about with the penalty kill, time and space is the best thing you can give a power play, because that's when they are dangerous. And he's able to give them more time and space by being able to stare down defenders and not tip his hand of where he's passing the puck until the very last second. He's also a threat to shoot and keeps his head up in his shooting motion so he can find guys ready for tips. These are the attributes you see of the top guys in the AHL and the guys who are ready for a shot in the show. I don't know if he ever breaks through on the Lightning because, well, have you seen that defensive core? I do think, though, that if he can maintain what he's doing now, he's an RFA this offseason. The Lightning control what he's able to do. They can make him a QO or whatever, but there's also a chance that someone offer sheets him for no compensation, because he'd probably slide under the minimum for compensation, which I want to say is a $125 million AAV contract. It's off the top of my head, but I think it's in that ballpark. A 2-year, $2 million deal for Shaun Day as a, 7th defenseman in the NHL for a team like Montreal, Arizona, Seattle, all very real possibilities. But he's done a lot this year to kind of show that A, last year wasn't a fluke because it was a watered down league in terms of talent level, and B, that there are layers to his game offensively that are impressive. I'd still physically like to see more from him as a defender, but he's able to break up plays with his skating. But I think for a dude his size, I'd like him to have a little more snarl, but that's, maybe being a tad, well, why aren't you 6'5" instead of 6'3"? But
and looking at the stats here, he is at the same point this season than he was last season. Well, except his season ended at 29 games because of the shortened season, but he is now at 29 games with the Syracuse Crunch. 3 goals, 16 assists for 19 points. But I think looking beyond the statistics, I mean, he's got a few more assists than he did this time game-wise last year. But he also has 2 games played for the Tampa Bay Lightning this year. So there's that. Like you said, to get that free agent contract to make an NHL team, I mean, you keep showing out, you keep, putting in the work and getting those NHL moments there. I mean, even if it's just a couple games, somebody could take like you said, 2-way contract on you. Why not? But anyway, let's talk about. Go ahead. Yeah.
Last piece on Shaun Day here is like,
sure.
Those Crunch teams that he's played on these past 2 years, he's not riding on coattails. Like those teams are not, just running over teams like the Wolves or the Comets or whatever. And it's just like, oh yeah, well, how hard is it to pass the puck to, the league MVP and watch him go score? That's not what's happening here. Shaun Day is making hay with, not the most overflowing of talented rosters in the AHL. So I think that also stands as an impressive kind of feather in his cap for what has been a very good season for him.
Let's pivot to the keys to the weekend. Shaun, what does Syracuse have to do to beat Rochester, Charlotte, one or the other, or both of them?
Well, I mean, we can't talk about how bad the penalty kill is and then in the keys of the weekend say anything other than don't take penalties.
Correct.
You're going against the Amherst, whose power play is 2nd in the league, and Charlotte, who's 5th in net power play percentage. Until you fix those power or penalty kill problems, stay out of penalty trouble. Don't punch guys in the face on the way to the handshake line after goals. Don't do stuff like that. It's bad. Second key to the weekend, shoot the puck. Yes, I know. What great analysis. And not a popular piece of advice, as we on this podcast value quality over quantity, as shooting from distance rarely goes anywhere. However, there's a good chance the Crunch see Matt Robson and Christopher Gibson this weekend. They've both been terrible this season. And while Gibson at least has respectable AHL bullet points on his resume, Matt Robson does not. Shoot and see what happens.
Well, without further ado, let's make some picks. I shall go first. I say the home team wins both of these games. Rochester over Syracuse on Friday and the Crunch over the Checkers on Saturday. Shaun, what say you?
I have the sneaking suspicion that Charlotte is going to get reinforcements before that game is played. Just kind of like I said with Hershey, I have that feeling. Except this time I am going to, go against my nature earlier and act on that. I cannot in good faith pick the Amherst without a legitimate goalie in net. They do not have one. I will take the Crunch over the Amherst in that game. But I'm going to go Checkers here. I have that sneaking suspicion we're going to see Joey Decord get sent down or Antoine Bibeau get a start and play well or something is going to throw off the balance of that game.
I want to say Bibeau got sent. I think he got called up to the Kraken. I want to say today. Let me look at that. Let me look at that real quick while you tell us what the model says.
So the model has Syracuse as a 53.3% favorite over Rochester. Again, goaltending counts for a lot. And a 52% favorite over Charlotte because those are the roster. The model recognizes the rosters that Rochester and Charlotte has as of 11 o'clock Thursday morning. So whatever happens Friday afternoon, is not going to be accounted for. I have a life.
Here on Thursday, actually not on Thursday, it was actually on Monday, Kraken recall Cale Fleury to their taxi squad, assign Antoine Bibeau to Charlotte.
Still, I don't think Bibeau plays both games. So there's still a good chance they get Gibson, but I don't know. I feel a Joey Decord, Antoine Bibeau split start this weekend. I don't know why. Just a feel, a vibe.
Okay. Well, and it looks like actually Kraken may have recalled him on an emergency. No, they sent him back down to the Myers. Never mind. You know how it is with the taxi squads this year. You gotta stay on top of it. So anyway, well, that's it for the picks for this one. And we're going to take a break here. Sorry for the delay. We alternate those, or we try to. I snagged the one from the last one, and yeah, anyway, sorry about that. We are going to take a break here. After the break, we're going to get to the Central Division, move on over to the Western Conference, and cover the Milwaukee Admirals and the weekend that they have ahead of them. If you are just here for the Syracuse Crunch, we thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to don't forget to subscribe. Easy, CC. Get back on the rails here. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links can be found on our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We are going to go pay some bills, but we will be right back. All right, we've covered 2 teams out of the Eastern Conference and the weekend that they have ahead of them. Now we're going to cover one in the Western Conference in the Milwaukee Admirals of the AHL's Central Division. Their weekend series, also non-consecutive teams. This is the 3rd series preview that we have where the team we're highlighting plays 2 different opponents on the weekend. Friday at 7 p.m. versus Rockford, so they are hosting them at the UW Panther Arena, I believe it's called. And then Saturday at 6 p.m. versus Grand Rapids, also another game at home for the Ads. So Shaun, the model, as it were, has the Admirals currently projected for a 3rd place finish in the division. Their team power grade is an A. That is quite the big endorsement for a team that is 5-5 in their last 10 games and is currently 6th of 7 teams in the division and 22nd overall in the league. Shawnee, is this warranted?
This is what Charlie Brown feels like trying to kick field goals, right? Like, we've been here with this team on this podcast saying, oh, the Admirals are righting the ship. They're turning it around. And then they just trip over themselves and can't get any ground in the standings.
Good grief.
Do I see good things from this team right now? Absolutely. Rocco Grimaldi looks like he's angry he's still here and not in Nashville, high-fiving Carrie Underwood and getting thrown at a Tootsie's on Broadway at last call. Connor Glass has picked it up again. Connor Ingram never left and has continued to be fantastic. The defense has showed up. The team in general looks alive, which sadly is an improvement from earlier moments this season. But I'm an analyst scorned here, and we've been burned, 3 times by Milwaukee this season, saying they've righted the ship and are ready to play like the contenders they should be. I want to love this team. I really do. But I'm not ready for this relationship right now. I want to see the exact same thing from them, but over a longer term. I also want to see Tony Rick get it together, as he's been on a milk carton for long stretches this season. I want to see a defensive core that feels like it should have 4 number 1 defensemen look like it has 4 number 1 defensemen and just dummy teams. We'll see how I feel on Tuesday when we recap this weekend, but I'm not ready to buy on the Milwaukee Admirals yet, but I understand how others are. They have had better results and have looked better in times. But they've also still had a lot of struggles in some of those games. They won, I think, 1-0 over the other night in a just game. Like that's not all that's not inspiring. And they've had some favorable scheduling to go along with that. So yeah, you can only beat the teams that are in front of you, and those are games you should win as a contender. But at the same point, like I feel like I'm running up for the field goal again, and Lucy's there holding it. So I'm not going to bite this time. I'm going to bide my time and say wait and see.
Something I noticed from Milwaukee when they came here to play Colorado is that when they play rough, and when they play that rough and tumble type of hockey where they finish their checks, they're aggressive, not too aggressive. Of course, you don't want to draw too many penalties, but when they're aggressive and they're finishing their body checks and they're, just putting a hurting on the team. Like when they stick to that game and that game plan, like they do well, but when they don't, I think the wheels kind of fall off a little bit, but thinking and
on that point though,
go ahead.
I think too, some of that is like the problem that Milwaukee's had for this season in my viewings of them is that they sleepwalk through games where they're going through the motions, but they're not really there. And,
right.
Anyone who's ever stayed up late and had to go to work early the next morning, like both of us have, it's, that feeling. And that's what it looks like. But when you're playing physical and throwing your body around, it's pretty hard to be asleep when you're slamming your body into some other dude at 20 miles an hour. Like you kind of have to be awake and ready to go, blood pumping, heart beating for that play style. And I think that kind of, a little bit of A makes B. So I can see why, like, I personally don't think that is the best style for them to play based on the talent they have. Like it works for them and that's fine, but I think it's more effective at just getting them in the game and making sure that they're engaged and playing as opposed to what is stylistically the best fit for their skill sets.
And, we mentioned, kind of playing, well, I didn't really mention it by name, but they kind of, when they play better with a chip on their shoulder. And you mentioned Rocco Grimaldi looking angry earlier in that team preview. And I guess I'm curious, what makes you say that he looks angry?
Do you remember last season when Morgan Geekie got sent to Chicago from Carolina?
I do.
He came out and just murdered the Iowa Wild. 4 goals in 2 games and was just dunking on fools. Geekie was angry that he got sent down, and he took it out on Iowa. Rocco Grimaldi has been an everyday NHL player for almost 3 full seasons now. Thanksgiving 2018 was about the last time he was a regular player in the AHL before this season. Thanksgiving 2018 feels like it was a millennium ago at this point.
That is correct.
And at 28, he's not in the twilight of his career like James Neal or Chris Chelios or Scott Gomez. And this is just the reality of getting older and slower and not as good. Grimaldi, like Geekie, is angry and he's taking it on other teams. What's interesting is he seems to be getting angrier. As unlike Geekie, who got, recalled after 2 games, Rocco is at game 25 and is coming off a 4-game, 12-point effort. And in those 4 games, he put on a display of beautiful edge work, puck control, hockey IQ, and shot release. He showed that he does not belong here. I don't belong here. And this isn't like a cap thing, like Andrew Ladd, where the team just cannot afford you. Cap Friendly shows the Predators have $10 million in cap space. Rocco Grimaldi makes $2 million against the cap. The math is pretty simple. But until the Predators realize that Grimaldi is part of the solution and not part of the precipitate, I imagine we're going to continue to see Grimaldi just dominate the AHL with speed, edge work, nasty puck skills, and a wicked release.
Hold on. You said until the Predators realize that Grimaldi is part of the solution and not part of the precipitate? Was that a chemistry joke, Shaun?
That was. Good catch.
Don't
hear enough of those.
No. It's that really is. I was trying to think of a chemistry joke myself, but no, that was good. That was really good. I enjoyed that. Yeah, Grimaldi. Back to him. Yeah, that chemistry joke kind of threw me off guard. But back to Grimaldi. Seeing him play again against Colorado in Loveland, like you could tell he was one of the guys that like he was wanting to make an impact on the ice. Like I'm surprised. I was surprised when I heard Rocco Grimaldi was like spending a ample amount of time with Milwaukee this season. Like, what are you doing? Like, he's at least a third or like, he's a bottom 6 forward in the NHL. He is. And
he scored 10 goals in back-to-back years. Like, yeah, 10 is not a lot, but 10 is also not nothing. 10 is 10 goals a year should keep you employed in the NHL ad nauseum.
I guess Nashville's not hurting because they're kind of jockeying between them and the Avalanche for first place in the Central.
They're not going
but
to catch the Avalanche. But
no,
that's
Avalanche.
Like, they're not.
They were jockeying, past tense.
I mean,
but
it doesn't matter. They could have been jockeying. They were never going to outshine the Avalanche unless Nathan McKinnon literally died. But
wow.
The other thing too is like Nashville's bottom 6 is fine. Like, it's not great. It's not like he can't outmuscle, a just stellar lineup. Like their lineup is great. UC Saros is what's powering what feels like a lot of it. And Roman Josi, who should probably win a Norris this year because I think he's still a point a game defenseman. That's disgusting. But like, there should be a place for Rocco Grimaldi there. It's not like they don't have the cap space. It's not like, there's just a logjam of this superior talent. Like none of that's true. I really, at this point, do not know what the Predators are trying to accomplish here. But here we are. And Milwaukee fans are better for it because a team that has struggled with consistent offense, Grimaldi has consistently made things happen.
Roman Josi, 43 points in 42 games.
Disgusting.
Wow.
Man, it's disgusting.
Yes, he is. All right. Those are the keys to the weekend. Milwaukee, what's it going to take for them to get a victory over the Ice Hogs, victory over the Griffins? One, the other, both.
One big key I would have here is don't take your foot off the gas. Milwaukee, as we talked about, is a team that struggled to play 60 hard minutes at times this season. And the best time to keep that mentality going is when your squad is ahead. If I'm Carl Taylor, I'm not playing conservative with a lead in the third period of games this weekend or ever. I want my guys to press and play a full game attacking because I want that mindset in their brain. You play 60 minutes regardless of what the score is. You keep pushing, you keep playing, you keep pressing. Key against Rockford. This is Milwaukee's first meeting with Rockford this season, which is surprising and kind of weird. One note about Rockford is they rarely score the first goal, but when they do, they're 8-1 because they're good at playing with a lead and locking down the game and letting Arvid Soderblom be Arvid Soderblom and Colin Delia be a guy who can score a goal in theory. So the key I would say to them is don't play into that and press early. That first goal is going to be a major factor, and Milwaukee needs to get it because Rockford, despite all of their problems and flaws, is pretty good at just locking down the game with a 1-goal lead and riding it out. Against Grand Rapids, they need to get the power play going. Against Grand Rapids, the Ads are 4 for 23 on the power play, which is well below their season average, which is extra weird because Grand Rapids sucks at killing penalties. The power play has been a strength of Milwaukee, and it's time to flex it on the Griffins this weekend. They need to get that power play going and clicking against Grand Rapids.
Time for the picks. My gut instinct, my knee-jerk reaction was to pick a Milwaukee sweep because they've got to get it together sometime, right? Right? No, I can't. I can't in good faith and conscience pick a Milwaukee sweep. I'm going to take the Ice Hogs on Friday and then also going to go, well, not also, but going to go with the Ads on Saturday against Grand Rapids.
Yeah, that's the same thing. I want to be wrong. I want to believe in this team. I really, really do. If nothing else, it makes our season previews look better where we pick them to win this division quite handily. I'm going to take Rockford on Friday, though. I'm going to take Milwaukee on Saturday. I want to believe. I want to be wrong here and them to sweep. I do. But I just don't have I don't have the gumption to make that pick. I do not. The model does, however, because the model doesn't have feelings. It is a heartless running line of code. The model has Milwaukee as a 59% favorite over Rockford and a 60% favorite over Grand Rapids. So pretty sizable favorites for AHL hockey is Milwaukee over both teams this weekend.
Yeah, that was why I wanted to pick the sweep, but I don't know, man. Something doesn't sit right with me. So we'll see.
Well, we're going to take a break here. After the break, we will get to the Best Coast and Bakersfield and Tucson. If you are just here from Milwaukee, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. We will be back on Tuesday to talk about these games. You might want to hear it. Also, check us out on social media where we do the memes. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and podcast links, can be found at our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back. Stay tuned.
Okay, our final deep dive weekend series preview in the AHL. We're heading out to the Pacific Division, and one team from California, one team from Arizona, the Bakersfield Condors, the Tucson Roadrunners, going to be playing in Tucson at the Tucson Arena, the Tucson Convention Center, Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. The first series that we're doing a deep dive preview on, where both of these opponents are actually playing against each other for both games. So that makes it a little bit easier. Shaun, while Tucson soon may be the Arizona-based hockey team with the biggest home arena, oh gosh, what a mess. The Roadrunners still have problems. Tucson has allowed 3 or more goals in 9 straight games. Is this a defensive problem, a goaltending problem, or maybe a little bit of both?
I mean, why can't it be both? This really has been a case of, if it's not one, it's the other. The defense has routinely made errors in coverage, and mostly by forwards, too, in my viewings. Either forwards being too eager to leave the defensive zone and start the breakout, or trying to over-pursue the puck and leaving their responsibilities, whether that's a man or a zone, just in the distance behind them. That's not to say the defense has been blame-free, as a fair number of goals against have started as miscues in transition, where the defensemen are making garbage first passes out of the zone and just handing the other team possession. On the goaltending fronts, there have certainly been a few Wild West stare-down goals that have gone in, which feels appropriate, as this is the Pacific Division and this is the desert. And if you're not familiar with what we mean by Wild West goals, I realized I said that earlier in the podcast too when we were talking about Hershey. I didn't explain that. So Hershey Bears fans, if you're still listening, this will make sense now. When we talk about Wild West stare-down goals, we mean like the old-fashioned cowboy, 10 paces and turn, stare him down in the white of the eyes, pull out your gun and shoot. As a professional hockey goaltender, you should not be letting goals scored against you by shooters from distance where there's no traffic in front of you. There's no, pre-shot movement. It's literally just you staring down the shooter, whites of the eyes, like you're in an old Wild West stare-down duel, and he beats you. Getting beat cleanly like that should be a rare occurrence in professional hockey. And yet they feel like they found their way into the back of the net in Tucson a bit too often for my liking, especially at just back-breaking moments. The Dylan Sakura game-tying goal from earlier this month comes to mind. Defense, too, in hockey is by and large a team effort, and just about all areas of the team in Tucson are screwing up on a rotating basis. If it's not one, it's the other. So this really shouldn't be a two Spider-Man meme, kind of everyone pointing at each other that it's your fault, as all parts of this team have to know at this point that they're just not getting the job done in one form or the other. And it's going to take all of them getting it right for this to really gain traction in the right direction.
I don't know how everyone's 2022 is going so far, but I can say with pretty good confidence that Michael Carconi is certainly having a good start to the 2022 calendar year rather. He has 8 points in the 7 games he's played so far this calendar season, and he has been nothing but consistent. He's got 34 points in 30 games, over a point per game clip, and he's only had 9 games where he's failed to put a point on the board. Also, he's had a 4-point game and a 5-point game thrown in there as well. Enough about pumping his tires. What is going right with him recently? Like I said, 8 points in 7 games to start off the calendar year of 2022.
Carconi's problem was never what he could do. Carconi's a decent skater. He has above average playmaking vision at the AHL level, but finding soft ice and his one-timer are what set him apart in this league. The problem with that skill set, though, is it means you need someone to find you with the puck when you're in soft ice and put it in your wheelhouse so you can unload that one-timer into the back of the net. The Roadrunners have someone who has that level of vision and can make those precision passes. You may have heard of him. His name is Matias Maccelli, a name that we've had to correct since I heard some interviews with him in Finnish, and that is how the Finnish pronounce it. I blame EP Rinkside. Michelli has been a primary assist on Carconi's last 3 goals he scored, and they've all looked shades of that, finding Carconi with plenty of space to operate and letting him shoot. And it's really been a molding of those 2 skill sets that dovetail together nicely. Now that they're on the same page, they're a real threat to score whenever they're on the ice, because you have Michelli's very good playmaking vision, his ability to find, exploit small passing lanes, and Carconi's ability to kind of get lost in the defense, find soft ice, and have an Ovechkin-like one-timer for the AHL level.
I apologize. I was actually I gave you Carconi's stats, the 8 points in 7 games to begin 2022. But then I started giving you Matias Michelli's stats for the year with the 34 points in 30 games. And
that did feel high. I was going to say, I'm like, are you sure that's not Michelli's stat line? But
I'm sure, because Michelli has scored 8 points in his last 5 games. I mean, he's starting off 2022 good as well. So it's like, I just combine them all together, Matias Carconi, Michael Michelli, just one solid player. So forgive me for that, Tucson fans. Michael Carconi and Matias Michelli are 2 separate players, and they
do sound like they're the stars of a, Godfather spinoff though, right?
Possibly.
Michael Carconi, Matias Michelli.
No, Mr. Michelli, you're breaking my heart. Go get Mr. Carconi. He's going to take care of a little business, if you know what I mean, on the ice there. All right. So my apologies for that. But I'll tell you, let's move on to Bakersfield. Let's talk about them a little bit. The Condors have clawed their way up the Pacific Division standings, collecting at least 1 standings point in 8 of their last 9 games and winning 6 of those games. Do you think this Bakersfield team is finding its groove, or is it just good luck? Booyah!
Just like the last, team we broke down, I don't see why both can't be true.
No, there you go.
Favorable scheduling is something that Bakersfield has definitely got. They swept the 3-4 against Abbotsford, with Abbotsford missing Nick Patan and Phil DiGiuseppe. Abbotsford played with a short bench in 2 of those 3, 15 skaters on the 7th, 16 skaters on the 8th. And Bakersfield has beaten up on Tucson and San Jose since. Those are the bottom 2 teams in the division, and neither of them have been particularly impressive. Tucson at least usually is good for one kind of random wild card game where they go full Dr. Jekyll. But that being said, Bakersfield is also at a rolling PDO of 103 or higher since the calendar turned to 2022. Now, you can only play the teams in front of you, and they've won the games that a contender should win. And I think the start of February is going to tell us a lot, though, as they play 7 of their first 8 games in February against the Eagles, Reign, Heat, and Silver Knights. That is the top of the Pacific Division. That all being said, I think there's a lot to like in what I've seen from this team recently. Adam Cracknell has picked up his game. He's going to be gone as he's going to represent Canada in the Olympics. That sucks for Bakersfield as he's just picking it up and kind of, getting things clicking, but I'm sure it's kind of hard to blame him, as playing for Canada at the Olympics is a childhood dream for like basically all Canadian athletes and even probably non-athletes. Seth Griffith has played like a madman since he got back from his 1 game in Edmonton in late December. Copy and paste for Cooper Marody, copy and paste for Philip Broberg. Those are all guys who got to experience the show, and like Rocco Grimaldi in Milwaukee, are playing like they have something to prove now, to prove that they do not belong in the AHL. I don't belong here. If you're going to be a contender in the AHL, you need guys like that. You need guys who play like they're trying to prove they don't belong here. Overall, there are a lot of signposts here that indicate Bakersfield might be for real. I'm not ready to buy in yet, though. I don't think this is a mirage or a fake team like Wilkes-Barre Scranton was early on. They look good right now, but how good isn't something we're going to learn until after Valentine's Day. And I'm willing to kind of wait and see on Bakersfield.
I mean, to start 2022, they had overtime losses to both Henderson and Ontario on the road. And they did have moonshine in net. They did have Stuart Skinner, say that 10 times fast. They did have Stuart Skinner in net. So I maybe have a little bit more faith in them than you might, but we'll see when we get to the picks. Let's talk individual players. One individual in particular Dylan Holloway. He is finally healthy, and he's already made an impact for the Condors. He wasn't in our preview due to injury. So tell us, what can we expect from Mr. Dylan Holloway?
I would be surprised if you see Holloway in Bakersfield for long. That's for sure. Make no mistake about it. Holloway is the top prospect in the Oilers system right now. In short, Holloway has the skill set to murder the AHL. The only thing that can hold him back is his health. When healthy, he has a toolbox bigger than anything on home improvement. He skates well. He has great playmaking vision. He has great hockey IQ. He's physical. He engages in the defensive zone. He has deceptive elements to his game. If I had to pick something he needs to work on, I guess it's his shooting, which is simply his just least good skill. He can still shoot pretty well. And when I say health is the only thing that can hold him back, he's played 3 games since last March, all of them in Bakersfield. He seems like he's recovered well from he had major surgery on both wrists. Wrists are important for, passing, playmaking, stick handling, all of those kind of things. And he seems like he's recovered well from what I'm sure was a pretty shitty summer with a very G-rated internet search history, but he's getting in games now for the Condors, and it should take him a bit to get up to speed. He's never played in the AHL before, and that jump has always been one that has caused players kind of the most pause, getting up to speed, getting hit by, grown-ass men, that kind of thing. But when he finally, gets adjusted, watch out, because this kid can do it all at the AHL level and beyond.
I say this in complete seriousness, and I really am left shaking my head because of this. Edmonton has signed Evander Kane.
Oh, I know.
Yes. That news broke today that the Edmonton Oilers have taken a chance and signed Evander Kane.
I mean, doesn't everyone deserve a 12th chance, CC?
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on me again. Wait, no. Fool me twice, shame on you, shame on me. Oh, well, we're not going to get fooled again. It's like the Who.
Fool the Canadian Border Police. Shame on the Oilers, I guess? I don't know.
I guess. But in all seriousness, Shaun, does the acquisition of Evander Kane, talking about Holloway, does that not jeopardize per se, but maybe sets back his time to get back up with the Oilers?
Have you seen the bottom 6 of the Oilers? No.
I haven't. No.
It's awful.
Okay.
No, there's no threat there. Like,
okay.
Holloway's, the only question is, how much does Edmonton want to let him cook in the AHL, which of all of the things that Ken Holland is a screw up beyond belief in the modern NHL with a salary cap, letting prospects cook in the AHL and developing them and basically saying, like, you're going to sit there. You're going to sit there and make sure that you're right so that you are 100% ready so we don't have to yo-yo you. It's like the only thing Ken Holland is good at GMing in the modern NHL. So that aspect, I think, could see Holloway finish the year in Bakersfield with maybe like a stint, a cup of coffee, 2-3 games in the NHL just to kind of gauge where he's at. I could see that happening. But no, Holloway isn't going to stay in the AHL unless he's not ready from a health perspective or something like that. Or if that's the plan that they have for him in Edmonton, they're going to, leave him there and make sure that he is ready. Because he's only 20. He's not even drinking age in the United States, I don't believe. So
he's in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
But
you're right.
He's not going to be held back because Edmonton has guys in the bottom 6 that are valuable, because that just isn't true.
Gotcha. Yeah. Haven't paid attention to Edmonton's bottom 6 lately. Will confess.
Connor McDavid plays 20 minutes a night, and it's not because the bottom 6 is super good.
Fair. All right. Keys to the weekend. Shaun, let's start with Tucson. What do they need to do to win against Bakersfield?
Tucson, to a man, you need to go to work. You aren't going to break out of this funk with anything short of a full effort, because that's exactly what got you here. Lazy play and half-assing it. It's one thing to lose. It's another thing to not fight till the end. This weekend, I do not care what the scoreboard says. You need to put in work every single time your steel touches that ice, or stay on the bench.
And for Bakersfield.
For Bakersfield, if there's one thing that has been clicking on this run for the Condors, it's been on the penalty kill. They are 72.2% over their last handful of games. And taking 4 penalties a night doesn't help. This needs to get cleaned up, as that Michelli to Carconi one-timer is certainly a feature of the Roadrunners power play, and one that will absolutely burn you if you give it a chance.
All righty. Time for the picks. All right. So, Bakersfield, they're hot. They began 2022 with they've put together a lot of impressive wins, but there's one game that sticks out to me. It's a 5-2 loss against San Jose. And because of that reason, I'm going to pick Tucson on Friday to get another win. It's going to be a lot closer than 5-2, but then I'm going to pick Bakersfield on Saturday to just beat the pants off of the Roadrunners.
So at the end of the story of Jekyll and Hyde, Dr. Jekyll actually loses the ability to change back and becomes Mr. Hyde full time. I feel like we have reached that point in Tucson season where they are no longer Jekyll and Hyde and they're just Hyde. This is just them. They've been a mess recently. Bakersfield has not. I see no reason why that changes this weekend. Condor sweep.
Okay. What does the model say, Shawnee?
The model has Bakersfield as a 52.2% favorite in both games, which I'll be honest with you, I was surprised by. I would have thought it would have been more. I would have thought they'd have been in the 58 neighborhood, but.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break here, and hopefully my pick doesn't get too, lost in the weeds with Shaun and the model picking a sweep, but I digress. Let's take a moment. We're going to pause for some ads, and after that, we'll get to the speed round. If you're just here for Bakersfield and Tucson, we want to thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. I mean, we're going to be recapping the weekend that was on Tuesday, so you kind of might want to tune into that. I'm not going to say that again. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube channel and popular podcast links, can be found at our Linktree page at linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. All right, we owe some money, at least me here in Denver. Shaun's going to try and get some of his American currency changed over to Canadian. He should have done that sooner, but we'll be right back. All right, we are finishing up episode number 78 of the Calder Farmstead, an AHL podcast. We did do the speed round the last episode. Again, we skipped Tuesday's episode just to give ourselves a little break. But we had some technical difficulties, and you couldn't really hear our picks. But take our word for it; those picks were made, and I did the math. We keep alternating every week, Shaun. I win with 13 of 28 correct picks, 46.4% correct pick rate. Not very good, but I did beat Shaun by 1. Shaun was so close. 12 out of 28 picks he made were correct, 42.9%. And of course, the model, as it does, the machines always win. The model beat both of us. 15 out of 28 correct picks, 53.6%. Overall for the season, I am at an even 50%. I hold the best overall picks percentage. Shaun is not far behind at all, 49.8%. So he is nipping at my heels. And guess what? The model for the third week in a row, this is really weird. I've been rounding up to the 0.1% or the 10th of a percent. 53.1%. The model has been at that for 3 weeks straight. So starting to get some scary consistency there. Rise of the machines. A little concerning. But anyway, with all of that said, we're here. It's Friday again, and it's time to go once more into the speed round. First and foremost, weekend series, Wilkes-Barre Scranton at Cleveland, Friday, Saturday. I'm going to say home ice advantage for Cleveland on Friday. Wilkes-Barre Scranton comes back on Saturday. Shaun.
Two teams I don't believe in. I'll take a split. Wilkes-Barre Scranton on Friday, Monsters Saturday.
Abbotsford at Manitoba, Saturday and Sunday. I say Saturday night is Meese night, but Sunday belongs to the Baby Ducks.
Manitoba got it done against Chicago, but I can't put my faith in that skeleton crew. Abby in both.
San Diego at Iowa. Kind of an interesting matchup, Friday and Saturday. Iowa was very close to beating Colorado in both games last weekend. I say Iowa sweeps San Diego. Shawnee.
I want to say San Diego sweeps, but I think Iowa takes one here. Give me Iowa on Saturday, San Diego Friday.
Okay. Colorado at Henderson Friday and Saturday. Colorado 8-game winning streak coming into this one, but return of Manny Viveiros. Henderson on Friday, Colorado on Saturday.
I'm going to take a split. I think the Silver Knights are raring to go on Friday. I will take them on Friday and take Colorado on Saturday.
Okay. Laval at Texas Friday and Saturday. Can Texas's stars shine bright in Cedar Park? I say yes on Friday, but no. Laval takes Saturday.
Laval has been hot lately, plus I'm pretty sure picking against them after 2 weeks in French Canada will get me deported. Seon balayage, Rocket sweep.
Friday, Providence at Hartford. I say the Pea Bruins bounce back after getting swept by Utica. Shawnee.
Another max exodus in Hartford via taxi squad. I'll take the Bruins.
Charlotte at Utica. Can the Checkers pull an upset? I say yes. I'm going to go with Charlotte.
I say no. Comets keep rolling.
Toronto at Belleville. Marlies, they're still pretty hot. I'm going to say Toronto in this one.
I still believe in Belleville. Give me the Sens.
Lehigh Valley at Springfield. They got a grip of guys assigned from St. Louis. I'm going to say T-Birds in this one.
I say James Neal gives the T-Birds some elbow room. Springfield.
Grand Rapids at Chicago. We're not at Saturday yet. It's Chicago. I'm going to say Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago.
Now we can go to Saturday. Utica at Rochester. Make a wish. It's a shooting star. Oh, no. Oh, wait. No, that's just Comet or the Comets. Ooh.
One team has good goaltending. The other team does not. That makes us an easy choice. Comets.
Providence at Springfield. I go with the home team, and I go with Springfield.
All the James Neal needs in the world can't beat Providence. P. Bruins.
Rockford at Chicago. I think the Wolves are tired of splitting games with Rockford, and they're going to take this one.
I'm feeling an upset here. I'm going Rockford.
Okay. Ontario at Stockton. Rain or heat? Nope. Stockton.
Very good matchup here. Hopefully the Heat can get a good crowd to see them win. I'm taking Stockton.
Hopefully. Last game, Utica at Cleveland. Well, I'm from Utica, and I've never heard anyone use the expression monsters win. Seymour? I'm going to go with the Comets.
Comets. Big.
A little over 3 minutes. We shaved off about 30 seconds that time. So not too shabby, Shaun. Not too shabby at all. All right. Well, our apologies to Kevin Lacey, San Jose Barracuda contributor for Teal Town, USA. He's waiting over in the green room, and I know he was waiting to come on, but we ran out of time. So sorry. We're just gonna have to wait until next time. So that's it for the show. Thanks for watching and or listening to the program. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and several other great hockey, sports, and pro wrestling / sports entertainment, whatever you call it, programs at fullpresscoverage.com. Just click on the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website and enjoy.
And if you're enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others people find the podcast, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Links to all of that and more can be found on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/The Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_DYSFUNCTION. So we can make music for you too. CC, where can people find you?
Well, my name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL. That's mainly the AHL News Twitter account. And you can find me at my personal Twitter account at CC Hawk. I'm into a lot of things, mainly hockey, of course, but yeah, professional wrestling, music, big fan of the rock band Rush, Genesis, U2, Coldplay. Yeah, I know that can be divisive, but I confess to it. I admitted it. If it keeps me interested, hopefully it won't be bullshit for you. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at fullpresshockey.com. Shaun, enough about me. Where can the people find you?
I'm Shaun O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Shaun O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien81. I'm also on Instagram at Shaun O'Brien _81. I've started a thing on Instagram now where I'm doing jersey of the day, because I wear jerseys to work every single day during hockey season, and I have way too many of them. So we're going to start seeing, jersey selfies on my Instagram story. Today, this was the first one with the Hershey Bears jersey, but tomorrow will be different. Not sure where I'm going with it yet. But you can check out all of the stats work I do, all of the PDO things, that model that you hear us talk about, plus a lot more things, game probabilities, all kinds of stuff. That can be all be found at tab below at bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. CC, take us home.
That will do it for episode number 78 of the Calder Farmstead podcast, an AHL podcast. If you couldn't figure that out, I don't know what to tell you. For Shaun O'Brien, I'm CC Hockley. Thank you very much for tuning in. And as always, keep your stick on the ice.